Hello, everyone. I'm Senator Monique Limón and the author of SB 584, the Labor Force Housing Fund. It goes without saying that California's housing crisis has hit a tipping point. Due to the lack of housing supply, middle-income and low-income Californians are forced with rising costs, stretching their paychecks more and more to keep a roof over their heads. As of 2023, the top 5 least affordable cities in the country are here in our state of California. Over the last few years, we have made strides to add new housing units to the market. However, those strides have not been able to create enough middle and low-income housing. Last year, Governor Newsom set a progressive housing target for our cities, calling on local governments to meet housing targets or forgo critical funding for our communities. It has been made clear that in order for all of our local governments to meet housing targets, we need a consistent, budget-proof funding source that will ensure that our cities can continue to build affordable and middle-income housing units. According to the California Affordable Housing Needs Report of 2022, the state is funding just 16%. That's right, just 16% of what is needed to meet our own goals. The legislature has called for a strong collaboration across sectors and political courage from our leaders and communities to do the right thing and build housing for all. We have a chance to collaborate with our business community and show that the nation the strength that California has when it comes to innovation. The Golden State is a destination center. This year, it's projected that 279.1 million visitors will come to our state, and that number is expected to rise another 5% in 2024, according to Visit California. As with most of California's complex problems, we need to be innovative and take multiple approaches to solve our housing crisis. That's why I have authored SB 584. The bill would assess a percentage on short-term rentals to fund the construction and acquisition or rehabilitation of affordable and middle-income housing units that will be owned and managed by a public entity, community land trust, or mission-driven nonprofit. This housing will consist of both new construction and properties needing upgrades to be safe and ready for families. Let me be clear. The intent of my bill is not to penalize short-term rental owners for making profits. We are asking that short-term rental owners invest in the communities where they do business. We must take an all-hands-on-deck approach to address our housing crisis, provide ongoing funding to our local governments to build more affordable housing, and continue to expand the economy of our local communities. Now, I would like to introduce Mayor Steinberg of the City of Sacramento, who has worked with the state and our administration to address the housing needs of Californians.
Thank you, Senator Limón. Thank you so much for the courage to state what I think is the obvious, that in order to build more workforce and affordable housing in California, we need an ongoing funding stream. Thank you to the California Building Trades and the California Labor Federation for your leadership in insisting that we will only get to our goals if there are more resources dedicated to housing. Maybe a little historic context. I'm standing in a room where I used to spend a lot of time, the Senate Rules Committee, and when I was in this office, President Pro Tem of the Senate, it was a struggle to make housing an infrastructure priority. More talk and more action around water and around transportation. Oh my, how a decade have changed the priorities in California. Those other infrastructure needs are still important, but housing is everything. And in the job I hold now, I can tell you the reality. Sacramento is on the move. I mean, it's an exciting place. It's transforming from a government city. We're still a proud center of public service, to the center of new industry and high-wage job creation, technology and life science and art and culture and healthcare. We have one major challenge, and that is we don't have enough workforce and affordable housing for all the people who live here. And frankly, as people have moved from the Bay Area, those high costs have now hit Sacramento. What is the answer? We need to build more. We need to make sure that the working men and women get paid what they deserve to build that housing. And the only way all that comes together is to actually create something that does not currently exist, and that is a permanent source of funding. What we do in the city of Sacramento now is we find every stray dollar we can from our general fund, from the federal American Rescue Plan dollars, wherever we can, to try to build up a housing trust fund and then partner with the nonprofit and for-profit sectors to build more housing. The money runs out quickly. And so this is a real relief to know that some of the leading stakeholders and a leading senator are going to insist on a permanent source of funding for workforce and affordable housing, and do so in a way that brings the housing advocacy community and the labor community together, because people who build the homes should be able to afford them. Let me turn it over now to the president of the California Building Trades, Andrew Meredith. Andrew? Thank you. Thank you.
I want to first start off by thanking Mayor Darrell Steinberg for all of his hard work here in the city of Sacramento. I did show him, actually, before we started this morning, that I'm wearing my Sacramento King socks. I'm a big Sacramento King fan, and I'm really excited about the potential of finally breaking that playoff drought. I also want to thank Senator Limón for having the courage to run a bill like this. This is a big undertaking. We're trying to accomplish big things with SB 584. This is a bill that could completely transform the landscape in the housing space in California. A lot of people that know me know that I grew up not far from here in Galt, California, about 25-minute drive from downtown Sacramento. My parents bought their first home through a government-subsidized program called the USDA Rural Housing Home Loan Program. Before that, my family was housing insecure for big portions of my childhood. My wife and I got married at a very young age, and when we did, we were able to buy our first house through the same program. So the idea of government's involvement with creating pathways to homeownership and access to housing is definitely something that is personal to me, and something that I think is reflective of a lot of stories in the state of California. SB 584 is a game changer, changes the dynamic by creating a permanent funding source that is absent the politics of the budget and can create real meaningful change at the local level to put people into housing. There is significant income potential from this bill to get affordable housing programs started across the state of California, in rural communities, metropolitan communities, communities that have been dying because of a lack of access to affordable housing for their constituents. To maximize the impact of 584, this bill also includes incentives for apprenticeship opportunities up and down the state. These opportunities are going to drive progress and change the socioeconomic condition for tens of thousands of new workers in the residential construction space. This is great for local communities. This is the dollar turning over multiple times in local communities. And this is what we should be striving to do in California. Last year, the state of California fought over several different housing bills, and labor tried to take a unified approach as we entered this new legislative session. My good friend and colleague, Lorena Gonzalez, worked hard to put together a housing task force within the Labor Federation to focus on what the priorities should be for bills that are addressing the housing space. I'm happy to report that SB 584 is a manifestation of all of those principles. This is putting people into affordable housing. Our members from groups like AFSCME, from SEIU, from UDW, from the CSEA, members that are striving to find affordable housing opportunities so they can live close to where they work. Because of those conversations, we believe we found a real solution that works, that drives the needle for housing, that drives the needle for labor, and can actually finally address the housing crisis in the state of California. I'd like to, at this time, turn it over to my good friend and an unabashed labor champion, the president of the California Labor Federation, Catherine Leibarger.
Thank you, Andrew. Good morning. As president of the California Labor Federation, I am pleased, I'm excited to support SB 584. This legislation will create ongoing funding source for local governments to create much needed low-income and middle-income housing units throughout the state. The Labor Force Housing Fund will assess a percentage on short-term rentals to fund the construction and acquisition or rehabilitation of affordable and middle-income housing units that will be owned and managed by a public entity, community land trust, or mission-driven nonprofit. This housing will consist of both new construction and properties needing upgrades to be safe and comfortable for use. The need for affordable housing in California is critical. The state's housing crisis has left millions of people unable to afford to live in their own communities, many of them folks with good, decent jobs. This has had a devastating impact on families, workers, and our economy. Senate Bill 584 will help to address this crisis by providing a new source of funding for affordable housing. The Labor Force Housing Fund will generate millions of dollars each year that can be used to build and rehabilitate affordable housing units. This legislation is an important step in the fight for affordable housing in California. I urge the legislature to pass Senate Bill 584 and help to make housing more affordable for all Californians. I'd like now to introduce another fierce advocate in this fight, Shanti Singh of Tenants Together.
Didn't realize I was going to be going after all these heavy hitters. Jeez. Hi, everyone. I'm Shanti Singh. I am the legislative director at Tenants Together. We're California's statewide organization for renters' rights and a coalition of, I believe, almost 60 now and growing tenants' rights and housing justice organizations across the state of California. Really want to thank Senator Limón for introducing this. This is really a dream come true to work in common cause, the housing justice movement with our brothers and sisters in labor, especially because we're the same people. Tenants are workers and workers are tenants, and our rents are going up just as our wages are going down. We're tired of watching the tenants and organizers that we work with across California at TT working 2 or 3 jobs and moving into their cars because their housing is not secure, because it is not permanently affordable, because they are being rent hiked, harassed, or evicted for profit. We know that we have urgency and momentum on our side. Just last week, we saw a really broad coalition of housing justice organizations and labor unions representing different sectors of the University of California, calling for strong tenant protections and $7 billion of divestment from Blackstone and reinvestment in building social housing for UC workers, students, and the communities they live in. With all this speculation, Blackstone purchased thousands of San Diego's affordable housing units in 2021, and they raised rent up to 64% just during COVID. And without public investment, like the kind that we hopefully will have in SB 584, we're just not going to be able to build affordable housing faster than we're losing it. One of the things that we're told most when we call for investment in affordable housing, at least from the housing justice standpoint, or for strong labor standards in building housing of all kinds, is that we can't pay for it. I think that's an unacceptable response, and I was reminded of this recently where I was listening to a panel where 3 different UN special rapporteurs on housing reminded all the Californians listening in that we are the world's richest subnational jurisdiction. We can pay for housing, we can pay for strong union wages, and we can do it fairly by asking the people who've benefited from higher rents and, housing speculation to pay their fair share. That's really all we're asking. I think I'll just conclude by saying labor force housing or stable affordable housing or social housing or whatever term you want to use, it's really about giving every Californian the security and prosperity that they deserve to live dignified and prosperous lives. For too long, we've let the speculative market take rent money out of workers' pockets without asking them to pay their fair share, and that's all we're asking here to prevent homelessness. The housing justice movement knows this. We've been pushing solutions like Measure ULA in Los Angeles and Proposition I, where I live in San Francisco, and I'm really, really excited to see SB 584 continue and elevate these local victories from the housing justice movement side by side with labor. So thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone, for participating. It goes without saying that this is one of the biggest things that we can do for our local municipalities. I am 7 years into this role of serving the people of California and the district I represent, and all the communities I represent say, what are we going to do about the funding issue? How are we going to be able to meet the state goals if there is no dedicated funding source to build? Since the state dissolved the redevelopment agencies, this has been a continuous top of the line conversation for our cities. And so what we're doing today is bringing together needed stakeholders, the Labor Federation, the state buildings and trades construction, brothers and sisters all throughout the state, our local mayors, and our tenant rights groups to say we have got to invest as stakeholders to find viable solutions. Now, what's being proposed isn't easy, but it is something that is needed. And we are committed as a coalition here to work together to be able to move this forward and work with our colleagues in the state legislature to ensure that this big question that so many legislators get is where is the funding to build is a question that we can deliver on, because thus far we have not been able to deliver on that. So again, thanks to all of these incredible stakeholders for coming together and for generating the ideas of what SB 584 is and making sure that we're able to get this to the needed place so that we can have real conversations about solutions to some of California's problems. Thank you, everyone.